Part 1, Question 5, Article 1, whether goodness differs really from being. And that depends, of course, on what you mean by good, or in this case, goodness. Those words can sound patronizing. You pat a dog on the head because he's a good dog. It shows adequacy. A good pen is one that writes. Sometimes adequacy is awesome. The field goal is up and it's good. The team wins. Good also has a moral component. Try to be a good person, but how is St. Thomas using this term? Let's rewind to the very first sentence of Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, paraphrased here as, every action aims at some good, and for this reason the good is that at which all things aim. And with that in our mind, we can agree with St. Augustine that inasmuch as we exist, we are good. And this makes sense if you remember the previous article. There we saw that all things, insofar as they exist, are like God. So if they're like God for existing, it's not a shocker that St. Thomas would also call them good. But not everyone agrees. Quote, that things are good is one thing, that they are is another. And the second objection is maybe more subtle. It argues that being is the form of the good, and therefore being is not goodness itself. The form of a thing is different than the thing itself. And that, in its subtlety, that is what I appreciate about St. Thomas, being a clear thinker, making specific distinctions, not just saying, oh yeah, thing A and thing B, being and goodness, they're related somehow and we'll just leave it at that, and then going off and treating them interchangeably. No, they're connected, but what is that connection? Or maybe there is no connection. Objection 3, goodness exists on a spectrum, more or less, but existence is a binary. A thing is or it is not. I answer that goodness and being are really the same and differ only in idea, which is clear from the following argument. And there St. Thomas turns back to Aristotle. The good is desirable. The desirable is perfect. The perfect is actual, and the actual exists. Quote, hence it is clear that goodness and being are the same really, but goodness presents the aspect of desirableness, which being does not present. Reply to objection 1. Goodness and being are really the same. Nevertheless, they differ in thought. Quote, they are not predicated of a thing absolutely in the same way. Being refers to something's actuality or its perfection, but this, for a creature, implies that the creature has some potential. In other words, Boethius was referring, it seems, to lesser goods, which might or might not be lacking, not the ultimate good, goodness, existence itself. Reply to objection 2, being is a form, but goodness is also a form. Absolute goodness signifies complete actuality, which of course has to be a form, can't be potential. Notice again that Thomas is being precise with his language. Careful to distinguish between good, as in this is good or that's good, or it's a good field goal, or goodness itself. One is not just a larger version of the other. One is not just the arithmetic sum of all the others. They're different. Reply to objection 3. No, goodness proper does not exist on a spectrum, but an individual can participate in goodness to a greater or lesser degree, and Thomas gives the examples of knowledge or virtue. Knowledge is good, virtue is good, and you could have some knowledge, which would be a good thing, or more, which would be better. And this is how we begin our meditation on goodness, by observing that goodness does not differ really from being, only an idea.